The notification came through at 2:47 inches the afternoon, while I was still in my third period classroom erasing the whiteboard. It was from the school's front office app, the one that logs every pickup authorization in real time. My son had been checked out 40 minutes early. The name on the release form was not mine. It was not my husband's either. It was my mother-in-law's. My name is Sarah Donovan. I'm 31 years old. I teach 5th grade at Maplewood Elementary, and I have been married to my husband Ryan for 4 years. For 3 of those 4 years, my mother-in-law Diane has treated our marriage like a management project she was assigned without asking for. She is 62, a retired human resources director, and she approaches family life the same way she approached her career, with documentation, precision, and the unshakable belief that she is always the most qualified person in the room, including my home. It did not start dramatically. That is what I want people to understand. Women like Diane never start dramatically. They start with helpfulness. They start with a casserole left on your doorstep when you come home from the hospital with a newborn. They start with a text to your husband that says, "Just wanted to check in. Let me know if you need anything." They start soft. They start warm. And by the time you notice what is actually happening, you are already standing in the middle of something you did not agree to build. Ryan travels for work. He manages regional accounts for a logistics company, which means he is gone Monday through Thursday most weeks, home on weekends, catching up on sleep and email, and not quite present even when he is technically there. I do not say that bitterly. It is just the shape of our life. We knew it going in. I knew what I was signing up for, and most of the time I am fine. I have my job. I have our son Eli. I have a small circle of friends I can actually call when things get hard. I am not a woman who falls apart without her husband in the house. Diane has never quite believed that. The first time she showed up uninvited, Eli was 14 months old and I had just gotten him down for a nap after 40 minutes of pacing the hallway. She knocked twice, then used the key Ryan had given her without asking me when we first moved into the house. She walked straight into the kitchen, looked at the dishes in the sink and said, "I thought I'd come help out a little." Her voice was the voice of someone doing a favor. Her eyes were taking inventory. I thanked her. I made coffee. I told myself she meant well. That is the sentence that would echo through the next 3 years of my life. She means well. Ryan said it so often it became reflex. I said it to myself when she rearranged my pantry while I was giving Eli a bath. I said it when she texted Ryan a photo of Eli's laundry basket with the caption, "Just a lot on her plate, poor thing." I said it when she started calling the daycare directly to ask about Eli's daily reports, because, and I am quoting, her exactly Ryan likes to stay informed. Ryan had never asked her to do that. When I brought it up, he looked mildly uncomfortable and said maybe she was just trying to stay connected to Eli. Maybe it was not worth making into something. I stopped bringing things up after a while. Not because I agreed with him. Because I understood that every conversation I started about his mother ended with me being the one who needed to adjust my expectations. The key was its own chapter. A small brass copy that lived in her designer handbag and let her walk into our home whenever the impulse struck her. She used it on weekday mornings when Ryan was out of town and Eli was still asleep. She used it on Sunday afternoons when I was trying to finish lesson plans at the kitchen table. She would let herself in, scan the room the way a building inspector scans a ceiling for water damage, and then offer some version of unsolicited help. I noticed the baseboards in the hallway. "I can bring my Swiffer next time." She said it the way people say it when they are not actually offering, when they are noting. I started keeping the house immaculate in a way that had nothing to do with my own preferences. I wiped counters I had already wiped. I folded throw blankets I had intentionally left unfolded, because I was going to use them again in an hour. I am a grown woman, and I was staging my own living room for an audience I never invited. And then she started picking up Eli from school. The first time, she texted Ryan that she happened to be in the area and thought she would save me the trip. Ryan said that was sweet of her. Eli was happy. She had taken him for ice cream. What was the problem? I explained that the problem was she had not asked me. That I had been in a meeting when the pickup notification came through, and my heart had stopped for a full 30 seconds before I processed the name. He said he would talk to her about giving more notice next time. Not about asking permission, just more notice. The next time, she texted Ryan again instead of me, 30 minutes before school let out. Picking up Eli today, Ryan said it was okay. Ryan, who was in an airport in Cincinnati, had responded with a thumbs-up emoji to a text she sent while he was rushing through a terminal. He did not call me. He did not verify I knew. He sent a thumbs-up emoji. I called the school the next morning and removed her from the authorized pickup list. She found out within 48 hours. I still do not know how. She called Ryan, who called me, and the conversation that followed was the worst one we had had up to that point. Not because he yelled. Ryan does not yell. It was worse because he was calm and confused in the particular way that made me feel like I was the unreasonable variable in an otherwise sensible equation. She's his grandmother, Sarah. She's not a stranger. I told him it was not about whether she was a stranger. It was about the fact that she had twice taken our child somewhere without my knowledge, and that the school had a protocol for a reason, and that I was Eli's mother and I should have been the first call. He said I was being rigid. That was the word he used. Rigid. I put her back on the list. Because I was tired, and because I thought I had made my point, and because I did not yet understand what Diane was actually building. I found out on a Thursday evening in October. Ryan had come home early for once a canceled flight, an unexpected gift, and the three of us had eaten dinner together. And after Eli went to bed, I had gone upstairs to take a shower. When I came back down, Ryan was sitting at the kitchen table with his phone face down and an expression I had never seen on him before. Not confusion, not mild discomfort. Something flatter. Something that looked almost like shame. He had gotten an email from his mother, a long one, structured the way Diane structures everything, numbered bullet points, a subject line, clear paragraph breaks. She had been keeping a record, dates, times, observations. Eli had arrived at school without a snack on 4 separate occasions. Eli had mentioned that Mommy sometimes worked while he watched TV. Eli had a small scratch on his knee that had not been cleaned properly, in her assessment. There was a section titled Environmental Concerns with 3 subpoints. There was a section titled Emotional Availability with 2. The email was addressed to Ryan and CC'd to someone whose name I did not recognize. I asked Ryan who the CC was. He took a long time to answer. The CC was a family attorney. A woman who specialized, according to a quick search I did with shaking hands, in grandparents' rights litigation. I want to describe what I felt in that moment, but I am not sure I have the words for it. It was not anger, exactly. Anger is hot. This was cold. This was the feeling of standing in the middle of a room and realizing the walls have been slowly closing for months, and you were the only one who did not notice, and now you are looking at the blueprints and seeing how deliberate all of it was. The casseroles. The key. The pickup calls to Ryan instead of me. The photos. The email to the daycare. It was never helpfulness. It was documentation. It was the slow, patient construction of a case. She was going to try to take my son. Ryan said he was sure it was not that serious, that his mother was probably just frustrated and had gotten carried away, that he would call her tomorrow. He looked pale and uncertain, which was the most honest reaction I had seen from him in months, but I did not find it comforting. I found it disqualifying. Because if it took a CC to a family attorney for him to sit at the kitchen table looking pale, then I had to accept that I had been managing this alone for 3 years, and I was going to have to finish managing it alone too. I did not say any of that. I said, okay, good night, and I went to bed. And I lay there in the dark for a long time, very still. And I made a plan. The next morning I called my own attorney, a woman I had used once before for a contract dispute, who referred me to a colleague who handled family law. I explained the situation. I asked what I needed. She told me documentation, medical records, school records, character references, and a paper trail that showed a pattern of boundary violations. She said the grandparents' rights case would be difficult to win in our state but not impossible if Diane had already established significant access. I thanked her and hung up and sat in my parked car in the school lot for 10 minutes before I went inside to teach. That afternoon I bought 2 small cameras visible, not hidden, positioned in the entryway and the kitchen, exactly where Diane always started her inspections. I told Ryan I was installing them for security. He nodded without looking up from his phone. I installed a new smart lock with a digital code and a log that timestamped every entry. I created a shared calendar that I used to document every one of Diane's visits' time of arrival, how she entered, what she said, whether she had been invited. I set up a separate email folder for every communication she had sent to Ryan about me, dating back 18 months, which he gave me access to without quite understanding why I was asking so methodically. And then I did something she would never expect. I invited her to coffee. I called her on a Tuesday morning with my warmest voice. "I've been thinking we should spend some time together, just the two of us. Could you come by Saturday? Ryan's taking Eli to soccer, and it would be nice to talk." There was a pause on her end that lasted just long enough to tell me she was recalibrating. "Of course," she said. "I'd love that." Saturday morning. 9:15. The doorbell rang. Not the lock, the doorbell. I opened the door smiling. She stepped inside and her eyes went immediately to the new keypad on the doorframe. Then to the small camera mounted in the corner of the entryway. Her expression did not change, but something behind it did. She was recalculating too. "New security system?" she said. Ryan wanted to feel better about traveling so much, I said, which was the kind of answer she could not argue with. "Coffee's ready." We sat at the kitchen table. I had set it nicely. "Good mugs?" A small plate of pastries from the bakery she likes. I asked about her garden. I asked about her book club. I let her talk for 20 minutes while I listened and refilled her coffee and did nothing that could be described, later, as hostile. She started to relax. I watched her relax. I had been watching Diane Donovan for 3 years, and I knew exactly what her relaxed face looked like, and I waited until I saw it. Then I set a folder on the table. "I wanted to show you some things," I said. My voice was level. My hands were still. I thought it would be better to do this privately, between us, before it goes anywhere else. She looked at the folder, then at me. "What is this?" I opened it. Eli's pediatric records for the past 2 years, developmental milestones, well-child visits, one note from his doctor praising his verbal development and emotional regulation, which is apparently unusual and positive for a 4-year-old. His school attendance record, which was excellent. A letter from his preschool teacher who had written unprompted after I asked for a general progress report, describing Eli as happy, secure, and clearly well-loved at home. A letter from my therapist, confirming that I had been attending regular sessions voluntarily for anxiety management, that I was fully functional, and that there were no clinical concerns whatsoever. Diane's lips tightened. "Sarah, I don't understand why you're—" "I'm not finished," I said, still warm. I pulled out the second section, a printed timeline, every unauthorized entry into our home in the past 14 months, with dates and times pulled from the SmartLock log retroactively and from my own documentation. Every text she had sent Ryan about me, without copying me. The email to the family attorney, which Ryan had forwarded to me in full. A screenshot of the CC recipient's professional bio from her law firm's website, with the words grandparents' rights highlighted. I placed each page on the table with the quiet deliberateness of someone who has had a very long time to think about this moment. "You've been building a case," I said. "I understand that. I want you to see that I've been building one too." The room was very quiet. Outside, a lawnmower started up somewhere down the street. Diane stared at the papers. Her coffee was getting cold. "I was concerned," she said finally. "I am concerned. Ryan is away so much, and you're managing everything alone, and You contacted a lawyer." She did not answer. "You contacted a lawyer about my son," I said. "Not because anything was wrong, because you wanted access I was not giving you, and you decided to take it legally instead of asking for it honestly. And while you were doing that, you were using the key Ryan gave you to walk into my home without asking, picking up my son from school without telling me, and sending my husband photographs of my house like you were preparing a deposition." I paused. "I think we both know that isn't concern. That's a campaign." Her voice came back sharp and a little unsteady. "I have every right to be involved in my grandson's life." "You do," I agreed, "and I have never tried to stop that. I have never told Ryan to see you less. I have never refused to bring Eli to your house. I have never done anything except ask to be informed before you come over, and ask to be the one you call when something involves my child. You turned that into a legal strategy." I slid one more page across the table, so I'm turning it into one too. It was a letter from my attorney, not a lawsuit, not a filing a formal notice documenting the pattern of conduct, the unauthorized entries, the contact with a family law attorney, and my intention to pursue a restraining order if the behavior continued. My attorney had reviewed everything. She said our position was very strong. Diane picked it up. Her hands were not completely steady. For a woman who spent 30 years conducting HR investigations, she looked remarkably like someone who had never been on this side of a table before. The front door opened. I heard the sound of Ryan's keys, then Eli's voice in the hallway, high and cheerful. "Mom, Dad said we can have tacos." Soccer must have ended early. Ryan appeared in the kitchen doorway, Eli attached to his hand, both of them in weekend clothes and good moods. His eyes moved from me to his mother to the papers spread across the table. His face changed. "What's going on?" I looked at him. "Come sit down." He put Eli in front of the TV with a snack and came back to the kitchen and sat down. I did not present anything. I simply left everything on the table and let him read. I watched him go through it the way I had gone through it, the timeline, the screenshots, the attorney's bio, his mother's email with its numbered bullet points and its CC, the letter from my attorney, which he had not seen before. He was quiet for a long time. Diane tried first. I was trying to protect Eli. I had concerns and I addressed them the only way I knew. "You CC'd a lawyer on an email about my wife," Ryan said. He was looking at the table. His voice was not loud. It was worse than loud. It was the voice of someone doing the most painful math of his life. "You did that without telling me. You let me come home last Thursday and eat dinner with my family, and you had already sent that email, and you didn't say a word." "Ryan, I defended you." He looked up at her then. "For 4 years, I told Sarah she was misreading things. That you meant well. I asked her to adjust. I told her she was being rigid." He said the word like it had a bad taste. "And the whole time you were," he stopped. "Set the papers down. You were building a file on my wife. I was worried about my grandson. Eli is fine." His voice was quiet and absolutely certain. "He has always been fine. Sarah is the reason he's fine." He looked at her for a long moment, and then looked at me, and I saw in his face the particular devastation of a person who has understood, all at once, what they have been slow to see. It was not comfortable to watch, but it was real. It was the first completely real thing I had gotten from him in a very long time. "Mom," he said, "I need you to leave." She stood slowly. The papers stayed on the table. She picked up her purse and her coat, and she walked into the hallway, and I heard her pause at the door, a small sound, a hesitation, maybe reaching for a key she had already realized she did not have anymore. The keypad beeped once. The door opened, the door closed, the kitchen was quiet. The lawnmower down the street had stopped. From the living room, I could hear the low sounds of a cartoon. Ryan sat at the table for a minute without saying anything. Then he said, "I'm sorry. I know that isn't enough. I need you to know I understand that it isn't enough." I nodded. I was not ready to have that conversation. Not fully, not yet. There was still a lot to untangle. 4 years of small erasures and adjustments. 4 years of "that's just Mom." 4 years of being the rigid one. We would need time for all of it. We would need more than a Saturday morning, but for the moment what I said was, "I know." In the weeks that followed, Ryan called his mother. I do not know exactly what was said. He gave me the broad version, and I did not ask for more than that. What I knew from the outcome was that she had agreed, or been told, to stop using the key she no longer had access to anyway, to contact me directly if she wanted to see Eli, and to cease all communication with the family attorney, which Ryan confirmed by calling the woman's office himself. My attorney sent a follow-up notice. Diane's attorney sent a withdrawal letter 10 days later. She called me once, about a month after the kitchen table morning. Her voice was different, thinner, less managed. She said she had not intended for things to get that far. I told her I believed her, because I think it was partially true. I do not think she woke up one morning and decided to destroy me. I think she woke up one morning and told herself she was protecting her son and her grandson, and that anything she did in service of that was justified. I think the gap between what she believed she was doing and what she was actually doing had closed so slowly that she never noticed crossing it. I told her that if she wanted a relationship with Eli, that was something we could talk about, that I had never wanted to take his grandmother away from him, that what I wanted and what I was going to require was respect, scheduled visits, a phone call that came to me. No more appearing at the school, no more conversations with his teachers that did not include me. No more emails to Ryan that I was not copied on. She said she understood. We will see if she does. I am cautiously optimistic, the way you are cautiously optimistic about a levee after a flood, not because you have forgotten what the water did, but because you have also reinforced the foundation and you are paying attention now. Ryan is paying attention now too. He made an appointment with a therapist, on his own, without me suggesting it. He told me that when he was growing up, disagreeing with his mother was not something that happened in their house, and that he had spent so long translating that pattern into our marriage that he genuinely did not see it happening in real time. I told him I appreciated him saying that. I told him I needed to see it in the decisions, not just in the acknowledgement. He has been making different decisions. It is not dramatic. It does not look like a grand gesture. It looks like him calling me when his mother texts, instead of texting back first. It looks like him asking before making plans that involve my schedule. It looks like small, consistent things that add up to being chosen, which is what I needed more than anything else. The cameras are still up. Not because I am watching for anything. Because this is my house and I want them there, and I have stopped needing a reason beyond that. The smart lock logs every entry and exit with the timestamp, and I check it about as often as I check my smoke detector, almost never. But I know it works. I changed my pantry back to the way I had it before Diane rearranged it, which feels like a minor thing but was not minor at all when I did it. Some reorganizations take longer than others. Eli is 4.5, and he does not know any of this happened. He knows that Grandma calls before she comes over now, which he has accepted with the complete equanimity of a child who did not know things were ever different. He knows his mom is a teacher and his dad comes home on Fridays, and the three of them make tacos together on Saturday nights when nobody has other plans. He knows the house has a new doorbell that makes a different sound than the old one. He pressed the button 14 times in a row on the afternoon I installed it, counting each one, and looked up at me with absolute delight, as if the whole thing had been designed entirely for his entertainment. He is not wrong that it was. The last thing Diane said to me during that kitchen table morning, right before she stood up, was something she said quietly, and I almost did not catch it. She was looking at the papers, not at me, and she said, "I thought if I just kept being present, eventually you'd let me in." I have thought about that sentence a lot. I think she believed it was a kind sentence. I think she meant it as a kind sentence. But what I heard underneath it was the assumption that the only reason she wasn't already inside was that I hadn't opened the door wide enough. That the door was the problem. That I was the lock and she was just waiting for permission I owed her. She never understood that the door was always mine, that I was always allowed to decide who came through it and when and on what terms, that her wanting to be inside did not create an obligation for me to let her in. That love, even real love, even the love of a grandmother for her grandson, does not come with a key. I understand it now. And that house, with its new lock and its visible cameras and its pantry, reorganized to my preference, and its door that opens when I choose to open it, that house is finally, simply, mine.